Hello, I'm Chris Morgan, a member of Gloucester Civic Trust, and we're here on a lovely day in September, on a Friday, having a look at one of the buildings which is part of the open buildings for Heritage Open Days. This is the shoe shop Meeks, which was once a wealthy merchant's house from the 16th century, built of brick with timber. If you have a look outside, you'll see there's a later frontage from the 18th century, which is brick. We're now upstairs on the first floor, having a look at the unique and rare survival of plasterwork, which is on the ceiling and on the walls. We've got different illustrations of flowers, fleur-de-lis and various things, and particularly over the mantelpiece we've got two columns which are Greek caryatids style, caryatids being the female draped figures that held up buildings. If you ever go to Greece, you can see caryatids in some of the buildings. So, and an armorial shield. Basically, it's a beautiful building. You might think, oh, it's quite small, but it was actually, the width was taken down when it widened St John's Lane, so it made the whole thing smaller. Okay, so that's basically the background to it. You can see some of the timbering on the building in this a very rare and an important survival of a high quality plaster ceiling from the 17th century. So we're very lucky to have them.
We're now in the Fleece Inn and we're going down into the Undercroft, or known as the Monk's Retreat.
And it was used as a wine store. One of the owners was an importer of wine, so he imported wine here and stored it here. It predates the Fleece Inn above.
Oh, right.
The Fleece Inn was built in the 1500s, so about 3 centuries later. And the Fleece was one of 3 great inns built by the cathedral in order to accommodate people that were coming to Gloucester to the tomb of Edward II.
Okay.
So this was, the Fleece was one, the New Inn was the second one, and I believe the Ram, which I think was down near Devon somewhere, was the third.
Okay.
So dates back to that.
So now it's...
And
But they got obtained it in 2002.
It does mean with only 4 of you, when I ask questions, it'll be a lot harder to find. Okay, so the most difficult part of this is basically a little bit of the old city walls, which we'll go into. It was discovered in about 1974 when they started developing the site. Really discovered it. They sort of dug up odd little bits of it beforehand at various times. And it was actually Boots, the chemists, that was responsible for this, because when they started doing the foundations of the boot store, they actually uncovered it. There was then quite properly a woo border on it, and it all got dug out. But they were very good, and they actually funded the construction of the chamber and the access. The only thing is that it is actually the fire escape from the basement in Boots. So if they have a fire, that door will open, and lots of people will run through there. And it was widened around the 18th century, so 1700s, to become that most practical things, a toilet. Because by that stage, this was a woman's prison. There was one story of people escaping from here through the sewers, but they didn't take much tracking down. This is basically the rough area here. If you go into the King's Bastion and keep an eye on it, because I suspect next year we'll be starting to look to open it up. That's worth it, because there you can actually see the makeup of the outside of the wall, because it was banded. It's got white Painswick and blue Urolithic limestone in bands, and of course flush, particularly when it's wet, it does actually look stripy, and of course that was done deliberately, not because they didn't need to do that for the defensive bit, but of course it's a power statement, and a lot of this was power statement. Yes, it had a practical purpose, but it says don't mess with me. And then you move on, it survived like that. When the Romans left, it all fell into disrepair. So 400s, 450 AD, and you go into the so-called Dark Ages, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's only dark because we can't shine a torch into it. Civilization did continue, life continued, not in the city, because the locals carried on in there. They built with wood because there was plenty of wood. They weren't skilled with stone. So that's when everything fell down. That's why Westgate Street, for instance, and Eastgate Street are not straight. They're not, it's not a Roman road. You get the traffic coming in is thick, which is probably one of the major reasons why Gloucester is a lot higher than it was now. It's basically years and years and years of, well, initially the rubble from the Dark Ages, but eventually just dirt and mud coming in and just gradually building up. So this was the horse pool. There would have been a way in to bring a horse and cart in, and it had really two functions. Anyone know of Constable's picture, the Hayward?
Yes.
Which isn't a wain actually, it's a cart. People get very excited about this. It's only got two wheels, and it's had four to be wain. I read an article. But it's there because you could bring your horse in, you could wash all the water off, the horse could get a drink of some foul water, but also by putting the wagons into there, of course, you wet the wheels, and that stops the wood drying out, because if the wood dries out too much, then of course it shrinks. The metal tire surrounding it doesn't, and it falls off, and then the wheel breaks. So that was this. It's a sort of a multi-purpose thing, but primarily to wash the dirt off, to actually try and keep some degree of control.
Yes,
And those trees.
Yeah, it's good.